This lesson, we're looking at curriculum models, and it's the different ways to implement and use the curriculum in physical education class. A teacher's philosophy, along with the program goals, objectives, and influence, is the focus on instruction. The curriculum models are focused, theme-based, and represent a particular philosophy. And we're going to look at these different philosophies to help students figure out which one is best for them and which is the best for their students and the setting and the environment and the goals and so on. Definitely nothing here is a one-size-fits-all. There's not a best method here. It's really it's finding what works for the teacher and the learning environment and the students, and oftentimes combining aspects from each to make what's best for the environment. Physical education pedagogy is concerned with the study of teaching and learning process of that physical activity. We need to realize that what's best for the teacher or easiest for the teacher is not necessarily what's best for the students. We need to think about how the students learn, how each is an individual, and what access there is, and so on. Quality physical education programs focus on increasing the physical competence, the health-related fitness, the self-responsibility, the enjoyment of physical activity for all the students so that they enjoy this, they have the background they need to be physically literate to set them up for health and activity for the rest of their life. So we need to look at how much time students have in a physical education class, the resources, the space. There's some ineffective programs where they have a lot of time but not enough space to do what they need or the materials and so on. We need to look at the social aspects and the means and really all the environmental factors that help make these decisions. So everything starts with the national grade level outcomes, with our national standards that come from the Shape America. And those, based on those, the states have their state standards, and school systems might have their own curriculum maps or outcomes or outlines on what they're supposed to be doing and so on. But ultimately, we're teaching the standards from the school systems to the state standards and the national standards, which in this case are the grade level outcomes. We want to decrease the achievement gap from the different students. We want it so that those who have greater means aren't the ones with the better access to equipment and better scores and better outcomes and so on. We want it so that everyone has equal access and equal success. So when we're looking at a curriculum, we have the national standards. We want it so it's holistic, so we're looking at the whole person and not just physical, but also the other components, the cognitive, the emotional, and gosh, I'm losing it here. But the many things that make up a person, and we need to consider all of that. The different domains, the affective domains, the psychomotor domain, the cognitive domain. That's what I was trying to get at earlier, so that we can develop the lessons that address each of this in the ways, in the means that's most that's enjoyable, challenging, and sets up for the physical literacy. First is the skill themes approach. That's where we look at individual skills that are used within the activities, within the sports and the different activities that we do, and what are the skills, and look and train and develop those skills, combine those skills, do it in context and small-sided games, and then there's the culminating activities, which are the more complex games. So when you first take the skill, you do it in isolation, and then you're going to So for example, the person is throwing at a stationary target, and then the person throws further away with more speed to a target that's moving while the person throwing is moving to a stationary target. The person is moving to a moving target. We can increase the complexity all the way throughout this by increasing the speed and decreasing the target size and then the speed, the target's moving, the speed the person's moving to make this more and more complex. And then combining the skills with other skills. Part of that is with the moving, but also you can combine with other locomotor skills, other sport-specific skills, and that increases the challenge. So that it is, the sport is in context, we play small-sided games. That's with these simpler rules, altering the court size or the playing field size so it's smaller, the number of players, the number of rules. So it's a simple game, but still allows to have these skills practiced in a realistic setting. And then a culminating activity is going to be a more complex small-sided game. A personal social responsibility model. Again, we're looking at the whole student. When we think about what people are wanting, how they want to learn, and it's more of a self-directed. So the level 1 is protecting the rights and feelings of others, participation and effort, the self-direction, the caring, and then our ultimate goal is to have them want to work out in a way that's taking care of themselves and taking care of the other people, not just while we have them in the classroom, but also when they're outside the classroom, when they're on their own, independent adult, and so on. The teaching games for understanding, it's a problem-based model, and in this one, the games are played so that the students want to learn how to be better at it. And there's a lot of focus on strategy. And then as the student is excited and wants to learn, they're going to be more motivated to learn the skills. So it's a bit of a backwards approach to that skills theme approach. The sport education model, it's going to be more realistic. And so it's going to have seasons, teams, formal competition, maybe tournaments, and so on. This is, I'm mentioning this, but frankly not recommending this. This is an older model and not found to be effective for students that are lower achievers in sport and physical education. The fitness model is one we need to put more and more effort onto. If you think about how adults work out, we're in the gym, we're doing treadmills, fitness classes, spin class, weightlifting. We're really not spending our time doing dodgeball, volleyball, football, these things as adults. Although there are times when adults play volleyball on a team or basketball on a team, as a whole, this is not what the majority of adults are doing. So we need to get it so our students are prepared to be able to work out in a gym environment in the fitness center, and even be able to, as trends change, adapt to those trends and evaluate what are effective. And we want the people so that when they leave us, they can work out as they see fit based on the equipment they have access to. They can determine what's appropriate, adapt for what their interests, minimal injuries, and so on. If things get real complex, obviously, more professional is going to be needed. But adapt for whether or not they have access to the gym and what the gym equipment has. We want them to be able to look at the gym equipment and know what to do with the basic knowledge. Adventure education. We think about some of the outdoor recreation and things like the excitement people get when they do things like the kayaking and the mountain biking and so on. There's always going to be challenge, cooperation, risk, trust, and problem solving. So people do this together, and this builds up the camaraderie to work with the fitness that is built there. Outdoor education. We can look at outdoor pursuits. They don't all have to be expensive like snow skiing. We can look at frisbee golf, which is very cheap. You can go with one frisbee in a course, even if the course isn't official, just trees scattered. And we also can think of things like hiking, biking, and these are very commonly used by adults when they work out. All right, we need to think about how different cultures and different environments are going to work out. what you do, think about how popular ice skating and hockey is in Michigan versus more outdoor sports in California and Florida. So what is appropriate and should be focused on in one area wouldn't necessarily be the same for all areas. So you need to consider what they have access to. Looking at grade levels in different areas, really all of these are elementary, middle, high. The skill themes approach, it's mentioned elementary, but it's going to, as we go from elementary to middle, there's going to be more small-sided games, and they get more complex as we move on to high school. We look at what is effective teaching and implementation of this. It's going to have students who are motivated, a teacher that can communicate expectations and skills, incorporate the higher order thinking, and in a collaborative environment, in an environment where people are willing to take a risk to try something new, fail and learn from that failure, utilize assessment for learning through feedback, and a grade system that is not based on attendance and dressing out, but based on feedback for learning. It's going to have the skills tests are going to be utilized, and appropriate learning is going to be conveyed in those assessment. A little bit more on effective teaching behaviors. Organization where no time is wasted. Students understand what they're supposed to be doing. Information is communicated efficiently and effectively. And as far as, and that really gets organization, communication, and instruction with no time wasted and as much time moving as possible. For the motivation, we want it so students are self-motivated, so that they want to learn how to do this, they want to get better, and they want to spend more time doing it. And that's all going to come out of not only effective setup, but also appropriate relations with the teacher and effective ideas, and having a teacher that shows that he or she really cares. So all of this is to show different approaches in implementation of the curriculum, and I hope you can find a system that you're able to implement and maybe combine some of these strategies to really utilize effective teaching.